So the president of Colombia is a guy by the name of Gustavo Petro, and he's a leftist. And he was here for the UN event recently in New York. And when he was here, he made some good trouble, let's say. Let me show you some of what he was doing. Let's start with this one. So he was outside of the UN at one point, and he was engaging with protesters, and he gave a speech. Now, the speech isn't in English, so I won't play it for you, but just here's a snippet for you. Quote, "We need to create an army bigger than Israel's, and we have to respond with war." Colombian President Gustavo Petro calls for military intervention during a demonstration against Gaza genocide in New York City. Look, I don't know about you guys, but this is an opinion that is perfectly reasonable to me. When you're looking at a scenario where hundreds of thousands of people have been killed, mostly women and children, you're looking at people suffering from severe malnutrition. They're being starved to death. You're watching the carpet bombing of humanitarian tent cities right in front of our faces. When I look at that, I say, well, if there's ever a time for intervention from the world, it would be now. Now, the difference is I don't want to do it unilaterally. I think that if something like that were to happen, it should happen through the UN. Gustavo Petro appears to agree that like a whole bunch of countries have to come together and try to force Israel to stop. But I mean, I don't know how anybody can disagree with that. Is anybody's stance actually like, no, sit back and watch as hundreds of thousands or eventually millions of people get murdered on a live stream in 4K? Can anybody actually believe that that makes the most sense, that that's the correct reaction for the world to have? So now here's the point. Even if you don't agree with what Gustavo Petro is saying here, it is certainly within the realm of reasonable reactions when you're witnessing a genocide. So he says that, but we're just getting started. He also was doing some event. He gave a speech in New York City calling for Americans to disobey Trump and do civil disobedience. Quote, "Today is the time to rebel. It is the time for revolution," he declares. He also said that he might take the Statue of Liberty with him because we no longer represent liberty in this country. Take a wild guess what happened after Gustavo Petro was going around saying incredibly based and correct things. Marco Rubio revoked his visa. That appears to be unprecedented. Hugo Chavez famously called Bush the devil in his 2006 UN speech, and his visa wasn't revoked. Fidel Castro, Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, etc. never had visas revoked. This could jeopardize UN headquarters hosting agreements. So yes, this is without a doubt against the rules and something that is really not, it shouldn't be possible. It shouldn't be a thing. You basically have total immunity to say what you want. I mean, basically like it's free speech for these world leaders to come here at the UN and speak their mind and tell the truth as they see it. That is protected speech. In fact, here you had Gustavo Petro reacted to having his visa revoked and getting kicked out of the U.S. He said, quote, "There is total immunity for presidents attending the assembly, and the U.S. government cannot condition the opinion of the U.S. The fact that the Palestinian Authority was not allowed entry and that my visa was revoked for asking the U.S. and Israeli armies not to support a genocide, which is a crime against all of humanity, demonstrates that the U.S. government no longer complies with international law. The United Nations headquarters cannot continue to be in New York." And you know what? I think on the merits, I think he's right. I think he's factually right. I think they're going to reevaluate. I think they're going to revisit. And I think New York and the U.S. are going to lose the headquarters for the United Nations. Because basically what we have now is a thug, gangster, mafia regime that throws around its weight and fucks with people and doesn't care about the rules, doesn't care about the regulations, doesn't care about the laws, doesn't care about the Constitution, and just does whatever it wants for whatever reason or non-reason it wants. In order to protect our satellite state that is carrying out a genocide and an ethnic cleansing, we're now banning the Palestinian delegation from coming to this country, from the Palestinian Authority. We're not allowing Iran, when they're here, there's terms and conditions as to what they can and can't do. Apparently, they weren't allowed to go to Costco, among many other places. Kicking out Gustavo Petro, who's our ally, by the way. And let me just say, Gustavo Petro, this was very brave. This was very honorable. You said all the right things. I'd also watch out, because now the gangster thug government is going to have you in the crosshairs, and don't be surprised to learn they're going to muck up a whole bunch of bullshit about Gustavo Petro and say he's involved with drug trafficking or whatever other horse shit they pull out of their ass, and they're going to try to go after him. I guarantee you that's what's going to happen, because he's no longer towing the U.S. line. Colombia and the U.S. are allies and have been allies, but now a leftist leader. We know how the United States reacts when people in Central and South America elect leftist leaders. We know what they do. Virtually all the time, it's, I think they're a terrorist. I think they're connected to a drug cartel. I think they're a dictator. Oh, I guess we have... They're even trying to do that with fucking Claudia Sheinbaum, who's the biggest success story, arguably, in the world right now, along with AMLO and the Morena Party. And what are they doing? We're going to go do military intervention and bomb the cartels. We're going to illegally violate the sovereignty of our top ally, Mexico, and bomb the cartels. They've drafted plans to do exactly that. If you are a leftist leader in Central or South America, there is a target on your back from the right-wing fascist regime in the United States. That's what's happening. And so here comes a truth teller and says, the UN needs to militarily stop Israel and force them to no longer do a genocide and arrest Netanyahu. He says we need to do civil disobedience against the Trump regime because it's a criminal regime. And they go, how dare you? We're bad. By the way, also, can we just say, I know it's fascist, I know it's authoritarian, I know it's horrible, but can we also just point out Trump and Marco Rubio and the whole regime, they're the biggest little insecure pricks. They're little babies. Fucking anything that disagrees with their narrative. We're going to ban you. We're going to arrest you. We're going to send ICE after you. We're going to kick you out of the country. They don't tolerate any disagreement. And in fact, we just did the segment how the new directive from Trump is the FBI and the CIA and all the government agencies and all the intelligence agencies. Now you need to target leftist terrorists and potential terrorists. So namely, if you hold anti-Christian, anti-capitalist views, then they say, we're coming after you. Anti-Americanism, we're coming after you. So in other words, if you disagree with us, if you're even slightly left of center to far left, we're going to make your belief system illegal. That's what we're going to do. And this is where we are. They can't tolerate any dissent, any disagreement whatsoever, any truth-telling whatsoever. And it oozes weakness. It oozes petty insecurity, right? Like, these are the biggest fucking cry bullies on the planet, the Trump regime is. And this is what that looks like. It looks exactly like this. So Gustavo Petro kept it real, and history will judge him very, very kindly. But in this moment, I'd look out if I was him, because they're going to keep coming after him. Now, by the way, I should also point out, Trump is on a bit of a crime spree now, because as you all know, he's been illegally invading. He invaded Los Angeles and D.C., and now he's wanting to add Portland to that list and threaten Chicago and Memphis and all these places. All this is wildly illegal and unconstitutional. But now he's committing other crimes. So look at this. Trump tweeted, self-proclaimed New York City communist Zoran Mamdani, who is running for mayor, will prove to be one of the best things to ever happen to our great Republican Party. By the way, let me just pause to point out, if that were true, Don, you would want him to win. Right? And then you'd sit back and watch him destroy New York City, right? If you think Zoran winning would help Republicans, you couldn't wait for him to get elected and to prove your point, right? He is going to have problems with Washington like no mayor in the history of our once great city. Remember, he needs the money from me as president in order to fulfill all of his fake communist promises. He won't be getting any of it. So what's the point of voting for him? This ideology has failed always for thousands of years. Thousands of years. Communism didn't even exist that long, you fucking jackass. Oh my God. It will fail again, and that's guaranteed. President DJT. So in other words, I am going to sabotage you. I am going to illegally and unconstitutionally withhold funds from you because I don't like your political philosophy. He's admitting, I'm the crimes man. Watch me commit crimes. But also, what happened, buddy? I thought if you said he's going to be great for the Republican Party, why would you have to try to sabotage him? He would just destroy everything on his own, right? That's what would happen. Yeah, you know Trump thinks he'd be a disaster. Why? Because they've been working overtime behind the scenes trying to guarantee that this guy doesn't win. They cut a deal with Eric Adams and said, hey, drop out and we'll give you a position in the administration. That's one thing that happened. The other thing that happened is secret meetings with Cuomo, where Trump is effectively trying to help Cuomo. They're so sure Mamdani's going to suck that they're dedicating a lot of time and resources into trying to take this motherfucker down and then also sabotage him once he gets in there. It almost looks to me like they know he would be a success because they know social democracy is actually incredibly powerful and popular and beloved. And that's why when FDR got elected, he won 4 elections. This was before we had term limits. He kept winning presidential elections, and Republicans thought we are cooked forever. Why? Because he delivered, because he did the New Deal, because he got us out of the Great Depression, because he actually used the government for the people. That's what he did. He said, I welcome their hatred, talking about the elites, or as he called them, the economic royalists on Wall Street. He said, they hate me, and I welcome their hatred. That's what he said. This is that same philosophy from Zoran. And Trump's trying to undermine it every imaginable way. So I like the response here from Brian Krasenstein. He says the following. Breaking, Trump just broke multiple federal laws and went against Article 2 of the U.S. Constitution with this post. Election interference. So this portion of the law bars federal officials from using official authority to interfere with or affect the nomination or election of candidates. Bribery and extortion-like statutes. So this statute says it could be argued if funds were used as leverage to coerce political outcomes, civil rights violations, retaliating against voters or cities for election choices, could violate this particular law, and it's conspiracy against rights and deprivation of rights under color of law, and you have constitutional violations. This violates the Appropriations Clause, Take Care Clause, First Amendment protections, even if prosecutors decline charges, it would clearly be grounds for impeachment and abuse of power, which, we come to the main point here, Democrats, let's do some shit. I know you're hiding in the corner in the cuck chair, but I'm going to need you to go ahead and wake the fuck up and do your job. That's what I'm going to need. Because this, ladies and gentlemen, is unacceptable. The guy on a daily basis is like, hey, I'm the crimes man. I'm going to commit more crimes today. And Democrats just sit there and watch it happen and do nothing. I mean, we cannot have a system where the president of the United States is, because you have certain cities and certain states that disagree with him. Because of that, he goes, well, what if I cut off all federal funding to you and try to ruin you completely because I disagree? Well, that's called you're coercing them. That's blackmail and coercion is what you're doing. It's fucking unacceptable. It's unacceptable. But this is what he does. So I told you guys, as time goes by and his poll numbers go down, he'll get more desperate. He'll cling to power harder. He'll overreach even more. And this is where we are. He hasn't even been in office a year yet. And look at the sort of shit he's doing. What do you think he's going to be doing by year 3? Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.